Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He's roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
This is the next search on February 28, 2020, 7:44 p.m. How, does the FBI find people? The people misspelled P-E-O-O-P-L-E.
I object.
Did the defendant find out how the FBI finds people in this case? Oh, she found out.
Welcome back.
Happy birthday. You look good.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate that. Music's super loud. Sorry about that. I'm a little quiet. Is that a little better? Welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. For some reason, I'm not seeing others chat. Let's see. I can't see who's first. I have no idea who's first today. Congratulations, sample user. Oh, Fire Girl, handmade by Wendy. Congratulations. I'm pretty sure I just stuck my elbow in my barbecue sauce, which I have for my chicken, which I am going to eat here in just a little bit. I've got some chicken on a plate here. But, all right, let's turn this down just a tiny bit. We are about to begin court, and, court is about to begin. Hang on. We have a prank call. Hello? 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 Always. I tried to oblige when I can, but they just keep hanging up. Mary, is that you? Mary! All right, here we go. Here's where we are. We're about to jump back to court. We're going to watch on 1.25 speed while we catch up because we are a little bit behind. Let's see, we need to be super source box 3 will be coming from 2. Nope, that's going to come from 7. This is going to come from 2. There we go. All right. We are on 1.25 speed, so this is going to speed it up a little bit for us. And let's jump back to court here. Give me a second to get you the train counter. There we go. When we left off, the lawyers for Todd Mullis were struggling. To get through some questioning. So hopefully they've polished things up a little bit and can move a little faster with this witness.
You're fine. Okay, we'll go back on the record. Mr. Kessel, you can return to the stand. I would just remind you that you remain under oath.
I like this speed.
Sorry.
Your Honor, just more of a scheduling thing.
Okay.
I just mentioned this to Mr. Mullis' attorneys, but my understanding is there are 2 witnesses who have arrived in the courthouse who are here under subpoena, both from the Des Moines area. I just want to make sure that we accommodate them if possible.
Okay. I guess, counsel, what are your thoughts about then how we spend our afternoon?
We feel the same, Your Honor. Our goal is to finish this witness expeditiously and move on.
All right, we'll plan on that. Ms. Steenson, you may pick up with your questions whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Castle, we were talking before break about the creation of Amy Lynn 5810 Google account. This was the Amy Mullis Google account that was only on her phone and not on the family iPad?
That's correct.
And from your testimony earlier this morning, this was the later created of the 2 Google accounts that you associated with Mrs. Mullis?
Her device, yes.
Do you know when that Amy Lynn 5810 Google account was created?
Without referencing the exhibit that contained that artifact, I don't recall off the top of my head.
Would looking at the metadata TXT file from the extraction of Amy Mullis' cell phone refresh your memory?
Yes.
About? Okay. Yeah, can you just show that?
Do those guys need to?
Yeah, I'll show it. I'll show council what we are putting out, what we're planning on. I would like you to just read this to yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, you can remove it. Did that refresh your memory about the creation of Amy Mullis's Gmail account?
Yes.
And what was the date of that?
July of 2018.
And what was do you have the exact date?
19th.
Thank you. So July 19th of 2018?
That's correct.
Did you review or extract data from a phone connected to Mrs. Mullis's phone with the last four digits 5678?
Yes.
And it's 5675. 5675, I apologize. I misstated that. The last four digits 5675?
I believe that was the number associated with that other device, yes.
And do you recall when the data on the phone started?
I don't.
Would it refresh your memory to look at a copy of the extraction
Yes.
data? Okay. Just one moment. I will have to bring this up to him. Yes. So.
Okay.
Did that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Mr. Castle, when was the first earliest call on this phone?
July.
What was the date?
I believe it was the 14th, if I remember looking at that. Was it July 14th, 2018?
Can I approach the witness again to refresh?
Certainly.
I apologize. It was July 22nd.
Does that mean that there was no data on her phone prior to that date in 2018?
No, there was data on the phone.
But no, what data would be available on the phone then?
Our facts represent the activation of the device and the new call log beginning.
So the call from, what data then was missing before July 22nd, 2018?
Sorry, I'm having a hard time following your question. You're asking me, first of all, when this number started being used as it was tied to which device specifically?
The cell phone that you extracted.
Okay. And
Let me re-ask the question. Based on the cell phone that you extracted for Amy Mullis, and your testimony today was that the earliest call on the phone was from July 22nd, what does this indicate to you?
The possibility of a factory reset.
Did you receive and review Google search history from a subpoena to Google showing Google searches associated with the Mullis RN Google account?
I did.
And did any of those searches search for the term related to the recovery of a phone?
It did.
And what does it mean to recover a phone?
The end user chooses to possibly reset the phone back to its default configuration due to troubleshooting steps or obfuscation of data contained on the device.
Are they insinuating that the victim did searches, incriminating searches?
Can you tell me what you mean by that?
So troubleshooting, meaning that the end user was possibly experiencing some problems or issues with the device, and at the instruction of the carrier, they may have reset the device to solve those problems, because a factory reset will put the software in a default configuration, which will eliminate a lot of problems. Or secondly, the obfuscation of data, meaning that they reset their phone to hide something.
The search you saw from the Mullis RN Google account relating to the recovery of an LG phone, do you remember when that search was from?
I believe it was in the July timeframe.
Do you know the specific date?
I thought it was around a couple days previous to the reset.
Would it refresh your memory to review the metadata files from the search of the extraction data of the Mullis RN account?
Yes.
Okay, I will show opposing counsel.
They've tried to say that multiple people were using the devices, so you can't say that it was Todd Mullis who did the searches.
May I approach?
Now they're trying to show that Amy, the victim, did a factory reset on her phone. I think they're alleging to hide information.
There.
So the entry here, the entry right above it.
Yeah, like if her phone was having problems, like it kept showing that she was having an affair with somebody.
Just review it.
That would be a problem you might want to have fixed.
Do you have an independent recollection based on your review of that?
Yes, there was a search on the 20th of July, and then again earlier that day on the 22nd.
I would like to publish what has been previously admitted as Exhibit 374, page 55, which is Amy Mullis's U.S. cellular phone records. Do you see this?
Yes, I can see the phone records.
Approximately what dates does this specific page cover?
From the 19th through the 26th of July.
In what year?
2018.
And this is, just for clarity of the record, this is page 55. Does...
Sorry, page 55 of the exhibit.
Well, I'll just represent to the court that this is page 55 of the document, of Exhibit 374. Does this phone record on this page show SMS activities associated with Ms. Mullis's phone?
Yes, it shows both SMS and MMS messages.
And can you tell me what that means?
SMS is signal messaging service for plain text messages received or sent from the device, and MMS is multimedia messages sent or received from the device.
Looking at this particular page, there is an SMS number that is shorter in length. Can you highlight that? Can you tell me the date and time of that entry?
Yes, it's 3:04 p.m. on 7/22/2018.
And can you tell me what a short SMS code is?
It's typically used by carriers or subscribers to do a couple of things. One, either an advertising blast that would be received via SMS, or possibly a two-factor authentication code sent to a device for authentication purposes.
So this potential re-authentication or of a Google account was at the same day as a search on the Google, the Mullis RN Google account about recovering a phone?
Yes.
Did you review Mr. Castle, do you have experience with obtaining and interpreting cell tower location data?
I do.
Can you tell me a little bit about that experience?
Yes. In multiple cases that I have either offered affidavit or testified in, I have received subscriber intelligence data as it pertains to call data records, per call measurement data, and other similar type signals information that allows me to triangulate and locate the handset of a given subscriber.
I might be able to tune out some of the whispering.
Can you explain in general terms what cell tower location data is?
Yes. There are several spreadsheets that are created as a result of the subpoena to the carrier of Verizon or AT&T that are given to the government in response. That data contains multiple items that are used to build triangulation and mapping of the handset. Those are the geolocations of the cell towers themselves and the pointed direction of the antenna on that cell tower. They are in a 120-degree grids, which would make a 360-degree grid array combined. And then with the called data records, as applied to the communications coming off the device, whether they be SMS calls or MMS, those signals are used to triangulate the location of the handset in relation to the cell tower at the time of that communication. That's as it pertains to called data records. Now, per call measurement data, which is a specific carrier term, is a measurement that is taken. Radio frequency travels at the speed of light, which is a determinate variable, and can be used to triangulate handsets. It is a more accurate measure of where a handset may be than called data records, as it is a radio frequency transmission communication between the handset and the tower itself. This information is more accurate simply because that measurement is taken periodically as the handset moves. as a general rule, mobile cellular handsets do not necessarily talk to the tower that is closest to it. It talks to the tower that has the best signal strength. So that has to be determined. That's determined by this measurement of the radio frequency and its signal strength in relation to the handset and the tower itself.
So just to put it in a little more simpler terms, can the cell tower location data help an expert determine the location a cell phone was at the time it was in use?
Yes.
Did you review phone records of Jerry Frazier?
I did.
And where did you get this information?
I received it as a part of the data I got from the government.
And what did you receive originally?
Originally, I received only a few pages or excerpts from these documents that would typically be turned over by the carrier.
I would like to show what has been previously marked as Exhibit 298. Mr. Castle, what is this?
This is a part of those batch of documents that I referred to that would be received from the carrier. This specifically talks about the geolocation of the cell tower and the direction that the gridded array would be facing.
The gridded array?
Correct.
And this was provided to you originally in 2022?
Yes.
You can take that down. I would like to show what has been previously marked as Exhibit 299.
I don't know how they can quickly finish up with this witness if they're just getting into cell phone tower positioning.
Again, this is an excerpt of what would have been a total data dump from the carrier containing data as it pertains to, as I stated earlier, the called data records of the CDR and SMS communications coming off of a handset.
And this is what, this also was previously, this was originally provided to you in 2022?
Yes.
Based on your analysis done with these two documents that I just showed you, what did you find?
My conclusions were incomplete because these documents are incomplete. I did not have all of the data necessary to do a proper triangulation or mapping of the handset in question.
Was there any data on November 10th of 2018?
No.
Did you ever review any other documents regarding Jerry Frazier?
At a later date, I was ultimately provided with all of the call data records and necessary information to build a more comprehensive mapping of the data, but this was after I had authored my original report.
They are going to finish with this guy fairly quickly. It's going to go over to...
Would these documents, that you were presented later, potentially change your opinion about whether it was possible to determine the location of Jerry Frazier's cell phone on November 10th, 2018?
If the data was not reflected for that date in particular, no, it would have not aided me in producing a location of the handset for that particular day. It did aid me in understanding where the handset may have been on all days previous to that.
I would like to publish what has been already admitted as Exhibit 271, page 11. Can you highlight like that? Maybe just like...
Made the whispering quieter, but it's still there.
Here at the dates of July 2nd, 2018, what is primarily being searched here?
The subject matter surrounding Ohana tattoos.
And were you aware of any communication regarding Ohana tattoos in the digital evidence that you reviewed?
Yes, there was a conversation in the communications between Ms. Mullis and another party surrounding her getting one of these Ohana tattoos.
I would like to publish what has been previously admitted as Exhibit 262.
Is he saying a henna tattoo, like the little staining of the skin, non-permanent?
And looking at the top of, can you tell us what this document purports to be?
It appears to be the communications between Ms. Mullis and another party.
And at the and can we scroll to page 7? Can you tell us what the date of this text message is?
This document would seem to reflect that the communications happened on July 2nd. It doesn't state a year in that time date stamp.
Okay. You can take it down. I would like to show the witness what has already been admitted as Exhibit 271 on page 57. Mr. Castle, you previously mentioned that you knew the iPad was activated on August of 2017. Why was this significant in your analysis?
It appeared that there were Google searches that were conducted previous to its activation.
And in looking at Exhibit 271 on page 57, can you tell us the date of the first search?
The first search that Google has record of for this account happened in March of 2017.
Mr. Castle, did you review the Galaxy DVR security cameras from the Mullis family farm?
I did.
And did you perform data extraction on the security camera system?
I conducted my own independent collection or extraction of the data, and then I also conducted an analysis of the data contained within that hard drive image.
Can you tell me what your analysis and conclusions were?
After the proper procedures followed for the collection of that device, I took the opportunity to extract specifically the system's log file of that DVR, which reflected the communications of the cameras with the DVR unit itself. The cameras were a wireless connection to the DVR and reflected a number of disconnections over a period of time.
I want to break this down just a little bit. Did the system record any footage from October 29th, 2018 to November 11th, 2018?
I did not appear to have made a record of any recordings for that time period.
Could you determine whether any video footage was deleted during that time frame?
Yes, I was able to determine by doing analysis on the file system that there were no video files written for that time period, so there would not have been any files deleted for that time period.
And can you remind me what program you used for this extraction and analysis?
I used FTK Imager to create the hard drive image, and I used DME's DVR Forensics, the same title the government used.
So this was the same program that was used by the state?
Yes.
Was there any activity on the camera at all between October 29th, 2018 and November 11th, 2018?
The log files reflect that there were a disconnect of the cameras from the unit itself.
Why would a security system stop recording?
Objection calls for speculation and foundation.
Overruled.
The log files represent a connect and disconnect of the cameras, which again were a wireless connection to the base unit. And this connection and disconnection of the cameras to the base unit would be an explanation as to why there was no footage recorded at the time.
Did you learn through your review of the materials where the camera DVR system was located?
I learned from the materials, and also in September of 2022 when I visited the Mullis family farm to retrieve a number of these devices I had opportunity to extraction on, I did a site survey to determine what building and office the base DVR unit was located in relation to the cameras that were on the hog barns independently.
And what was significant about having this knowledge?
It gave me a physical awareness of where the cameras were at in relation to the base unit itself.
So how did this impact your analysis and conclusions?
It was a further correlation that demonstrated the accuracy of the log files and their reflection that the cameras had disconnected from the base unit.
Did you review Mr. Hemisath's testimony regarding the camera system footage?
I did.
Did he testify that he could not tell whether the camera did or did not record?
Objection to transcript to the score itself.
Overruled.
Yes, I do recall that. He may have not had opportunity to look at the log files that I did.
Was his statements true?
Objection, this is improper opinion testimony.
Stay in that one.
Overruled.
No.
It would appear that they did not have all the data necessary to make that conclusion.
Is your conclusion based on the data that you extracted?
It is.
And this is also the same data extracted by the state?
They had access to the data. I don't know whether or not they extracted or did analysis on that data.
But they had access to the system log to come to the conclusion that there was no data on the phones, on the cameras between October 29th and November 11th?
Correction leading.
Overruled. The answer will remain in the record.
Can I have a moment?
You may.
Okay, this is sort of funny. Objection leading. She's like, overruled. It was leading. But she's like, I'm sick of you guys slowing down the process.
called to testify at Mr. Mullis's trial in 2019, could you have offered this opinion? All these opinions?
Had I been retained by counsel for the purposes of analysis in these matters, my findings would be as they are.
Just say yes, then.
Thank you. No further questions at this time.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to pick up where we left off. Your testimony was that your findings would be as they are, right?
With the exception of the with the exception of the call data records and the mapping of the handset, yes.
So that means you used the existing software versions that were available at the time of the trial in 2018, and you didn't use any new versions of software, is that right?
I did have a couple newer versions of software, but it did not reveal any additional data that I used as part of my findings.
So let's break that down a little bit. So you stated that you use several different types of software. So, for example, you use Cellebrite, I believe Magnet Axios, and FTK, among others. So we'll use Cellebrite as an example. Cellebrite comes out with new versions of software as time goes on, right?
Often on a quarterly basis, yes. And on a quarterly basis, oftentimes, yes.
Thank you for clarifying that. So in those software updates, Cellebrite would change how it extracts information from devices, right?
Sometimes, yes.
So, for example, it might change what encryptions it can break or new versions of iOS or Android that it can extract data from?
Yes.
And that would be the same for the other types of softwares that you used?
There are often enhancements contained within updates, yes.
And as part of those updates, they're able to extract more information as, for example, Android software gets older, they can find new exploits to look at that information, right?
Yes, that is true.
And if you use a newer version of Cellebrite software, just as an example, you might get new or different information than what was available in 2018 based on old versions of Cellebrite. Isn't that fair?
Hey, that is fair.
I guess continuing to work our way backwards through your testimony, you finished, towards the end, you finished off by talking about the Galaxy security camera system. So essentially, you're relying on the logs to indicate that the cameras were never connected. Is that your testimony?
The cameras had disconnected for a period of time over the life of that DVR, and specifically in a time frame I was questioned about.
And you don't know why they weren't connected, right?
The log file represents that the wireless connection, as established between the main unit and the cameras, represented a disconnect.
So you don't know what caused that disconnect beyond that? Is that fair?
Until the physical inspection of the site, that would be correct.
So, for example, if the... I guess I'll just say this. You don't know specifically what caused any disruption or disconnection of the cameras.
That's fair.
Thank you. In your report, you discuss the Galaxy camera software and the extraction done by the law enforcement officers. Is that right?
Yes.
And I'm turning to that section of your report, and do you have this report in front of you by chance?
I do not. I don't know that it was admitted.
Just to move this along, I'll read from it and just make sure that we're on the same page. So on page 11 of your report, you state, and just tell me if this sounds wrong at the end here, according to a DCI examination synopsis report, Deputy Hemiseth attempted to access the security camera system without the proper software or extraction tools. Does that sound familiar from your report?
It does.
Do you now know that testimony or that portion of your report to be false?
Objection.
I asked if he knows.
What's the objection?
It assumes what it is saying.
Overruled. You may answer if you can.
I am unaware from trial transcripts or the report from DCI that former Deputy Hemiseth had opportunity to review the log files as reported that I did.
In preparation for your testimony today, I believe you indicated that you reviewed Ward Crowley's report and his testimony. Is that true?
In part, yes.
In what part is it untrue?
I recall reading it. I don't recall the totality of it at the moment.
Were you aware that Ward Crowley specifically testified, which is in evidence here, that this is not what occurred?
In what aspect?
Were you aware that it was DCI Special Agent Ward Crowley who conducted this attempt of the extraction of the security camera system at the Sheriff's Office and not Sheriff, then Deputy Hemiseth?
I do recall that aspect, yes.
Okay, and then your report continues on to say that I'll just read it since you don't have it in front of you. You say, DCI agent Ward Crawley attempted to assist Deputy Hemseth remotely while Hemseth tried to conduct an on-site examination of this device at the sheriff's office. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, it does.
And you now know that that's not true based on the testimony and evidence here, right?
Hey, I'm sorry, which aspect of the testimony?
Well, you say in your report that Ward Crawley assisted remotely, but he testified in this proceeding that he was there in person, right?
Okay. That part of the testimony I must have overlooked. I apologize.
I'm sorry, you just testified that you reviewed his testimony, right?
In part, in that I don't recall every aspect of his testimony.
That misstates his testimony. You're referencing a report here, and testimony is different than report.
Yes, you've admitted the report into evidence.
That's not necessarily what he's reviewed. No, that's not. And that's not his testimony today, that he's reviewed the report.
Your Honor, I think I can clear this up briefly. I'm referencing the deposition of Ward Crawley, which is admitted into evidence here. Ward Crawley specifically explained how this extraction occurred. If they want to point me to something that contradicts that, I would be happy to revise my question.
Okay, and again, I think her point was that this witness maybe wasn't present at that deposition or wouldn't have that clarification necessarily. Let's just have a new question, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I understood your testimony earlier, and I just want to get clarity on this, your testimony on direct examination was that you reviewed the report and testimony, which would only be the deposition from this PCR of Ward Crawley. Is that correct?
I had an opportunity to read that deposition. I do not recall the part where he was on site to do the analysis of the log files that were extracted specifically. My report in spirit reflects the fact that the log files about the connections between the main unit and the cameras were disconnected.
And maybe I can help clarify here. Do you recall any testimony from Ward Crawley in your review where he discussed attaching the physical right blocker device to the system?
I do recall that.
Okay, so would you agree that if he was attaching a physical device to the system, he would have to be there in person?
That would make logical sense, yes.
And there was some discussion in his testimony, without getting too granular, where he referenced using a trial version of the software. Do you recall that?
I do. I also recall during the course of that interaction that there was a phone call between the two of them regarding his analysis as well, and that may have been what I was referencing when I was talking to the remote assistants.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Used a trial version of the software? They couldn't spring the big bucks to buy it?
So you completed a report in this case, right? This is the general report of your findings that we've been discussing?
Yes.
Have you completed a supplemental or updated report correcting any of these discrepancies since this report?
No, I've not been asked to do so.
I briefly want to talk about your background. At the beginning of your testimony, you talked about your background into digital forensics and network security consultant. Is that right?
Yes.
And you referenced dealerships as part of your background. That specifically is car dealerships, right?
Yes, in the automotive industry.
Okay, so your CV, where it indicates that you worked for example, Sid Dillon, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, Cadillac, Mazda, Nissan, Hyundai. That's the example of your background working on dealerships?
That's one of them, yes.
Okay, and then you worked for other car dealerships?
Yes.
Was he a car salesman?
You don't dispute that the Google searches that all of the Todd Mullis Gmail searches that were in evidence had to have come from some device connected to a Todd Mullis Gmail account, right?
I can rephrase.
Yes, it was poorly phrased, I'll admit that. Just for clarity, we have the Google subpoena results, right?
Correct.
You're not disputing that all of those searches came from something connected to that account, right?
Correct.
And you have no way to know who specifically is on the other side of those Google searches?
Yes, that would be correct. Attribution in its truest form and understanding the patterns of usage and searches conducted. Unless there was someone that could visually witness the searches being enacted, it would be difficult to tell who was responsible for them.
Fair enough. You had some testimony about the correct meaning of UTC time, right?
Yes.
And although you referenced Deputy Hemseth getting that wrong in his testimony, you also had difficulty converting UTC time today, right?
I did.
Okay.
Math is hard.
Just so we're clear on the issue of the dish DVR, you can't specifically say what show is watched on what day in this case, right?
By the correlation of the TV guide and the unit itself, it's still some difficulty at producing the exact date in which some of those videos were watched. You are correct.
And would it be fair to say that shows can be re-aired?
Absolutely.
You had a reference to, or I'm sorry, one follow-up on that. You also don't know who was watching the show that would be on, right?
Correct.
Thank you. If you can just clarify something for me, you referenced based on user synchronization options, the searches can show up on other devices. Can you just explain what that meant?
Yes. When you sign into, as an example, the Google Chromium or Google Chrome web browser with a Google account, you are presented with options. Those options would be to synchronize those searches and history on that account with that browser. So there is a way to opt in or opt out of that synchronization happening across those multiple platforms and devices and browsers.
And are you aware if the user synchronization options were enabled or disabled on the various devices here?
No.
You testified on direct examination that the correlation of Google searches seems pretty straightforward and obvious, or something to that effect. Does that sound right?
The correlation of the Google searches to other data points available to me as part of the investigation does outline a pattern.
So if it's straightforward and obvious, we wouldn't necessarily need an expert to tell us that part?
I would agree with that.
You spoke about Ms. Mullis's phone possibly being reset, but you don't have any firsthand knowledge of why the phone was reset, right? In other words, you weren't personally there to know why?
Correct.
And because I believe you testified that it could have been for a variety of different reasons, right?
Correct.
So you can't say definitively why it was reset without speculating, fair?
The analysis of the web history and searches happening up until the point of that reset would offer some insights into the possibilities.
You also testified about your experience working with cell phone records, extractions, location data, that type of thing, right?
Yes, I did.
And you described for us what SMS and MMS messaging is?
Yes.
Would it be correct in saying that SMS actually means short message service?
It's another acronym that's synonymous with the messaging style, yes.
Looking at the VOLTE records for Mr. Frasher, would it be fair to say that there would be a tower code in the column of those documents?
Without looking at it again, I'd have to refresh my recollection.
I can try to do that. Give me one moment. I guess I'll speak generally without getting specific. Would it be generally true that documents would, or excuse me, that CDR records might have a column that indicate what tower was being connected to?
Oh, absolutely.
And based on that tower code, would you agree that anyone, if they know what website to go to, could figure out where that tower is with some effort?
As far as like just putting the latitude and longitude coordinates into a browser to determine its location?
Going the other direction, is it possible to take that, say for example, just hypothetical here, that we know someone connected to a US cellular tower and we have a tower identifier. Is that something someone can take and figure out where that tower is?
It depends on the public records release of the carrier for those locations.
Is it possible?
In this random number generator of a universe we live in, anything's possible, sir.
Fair enough. I want to direct your attentions. You discussed doing, in addition to your general report, you did reports of various extractions of devices, right?
I did create reports of specific communications or data points out of some of the devices I did extractions on, yes.
And one of those reports that you did, I believe you titled New Conversation or New Convo Report. Does that sound familiar?
It does.
And would that be in reference to Mr. Mullis's cell phone?
Without referencing the document itself, I'm not recalling specifically which communications those are referencing.
And I can attempt to plug this in here so you can take a look at it, and this will be just for the witness, Your Honor. Yeah, it's the instruction. Let me know when you can see my screen here.
I see a source extraction data in regards to a phone.
And this is your name up at the top here, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to scroll through this briefly. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same document here. What would you need to see to identify what device this was from?
So it mentions the selected device name underneath the device name and the manufacturer. And it also, oops, I'm sorry, the documents, sorry. So it gives a general idea of the device name there and the brand. Is there another page that gives more specifically the IMEI or some other unique identifier for the device itself?
I'm sorry, I was being asked just a clarification question from counsel. Can you just state that again? I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Okay, so it shows a device name and it shows a brand. It doesn't show the specific serial number or unique identifier for the device itself that I can see here.
Okay, I'm going to scroll down to the content, see if that helps us get on the same page.
Okay, I'm sorry, I still don't see anything that uniquely identifies the device that this came from.
Okay, let's look at but you agree this is a report you generated in your investigation, in your analysis?
It was an extraction report, yes.
Okay, I'm going to scroll down just so we can move on. So what we're seeing now are various messages that have been created as part of your report. Is that fair?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, we're just trying to find the document that counsel's referencing. I just need a minute to make sure that we have it.
Certainly, and I can help with that. This is the report that resulted in the State's Exhibit E, proposed Exhibit E. And I think it's identified with more specificity in the exhibit list.
Okay.
If you need a minute to find it,
just give us 1 minute, Your Honor.
Sure. Just let us know when you're ready, please.
Yes. We're pulling the data, Your Honor.
Thinking back about the Karen Reed thing, it's funny that they named the motion that, because now the response has to have that in the response.
Your Honor, I'm just going to share the file with them just so they don't have to dig through the data. So if we can have just a moment, I want to make sure they're seeing what I'm looking at too. And if you can unshare me so I can look through my files. Thank you.
I didn't have my computer while I'm hunting for this. I think tomorrow should be the last day of this trial.
Just give us 1 minute, Todd.
At least that was my understanding.
Just for clarity of the record, this was produced to us in Discovery, but I agree it was from a large amount of data.
Certainly.
We have all of the mics.
Ms. Steenson, are you ready to pick back up? Yes. Okay. And Mr. Beck, are you ready to have your screen shared again?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Can you see that in front of you again?
Maybe.
Or let me know when you can see it.
I can see it now.
All right, so we were looking at this. I'm going to scroll down to page 2, and beginning at the bottom of there, there's messages. So this would be extracted from a device and then is output in this report. Is that fair?
Yes.
So I'm going to draw your attention specifically to the bottom of page 5, which I'm going to scroll you there. So in, I think it's conversation or line number 11, do you see that? And I can zoom in.
I do, I see it.
So if the first column says phone, what does that mean?
The device type.
Okay, in that next column, it says Todd, and it has a number ending in 1114. Is that the number you testified earlier that was Mr. Mullis's?
Your Honor, I truly apologize. I'm not sure what page number we're on.
Oh, it's site 5. I think it's row 11.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're on that spot. Sorry, it's like a very large document.
Page 5, line 11 is where we are.
Yes. Did you locate where we're at, Ms. Thompson, Ms. Steenson? Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Bakke?
I apologize, I don't recall if you answered, so I'm just going to ask it again. That 1114 number, I believe you testified earlier, that was Mr. Mullis' phone number, is that right?
That was the telephone number associated with his account and the device that he had, yes.
And I'm going to scroll up for just a second so we see what that column is called. And at the top of that page, I can scroll there.
Objection, Your Honor. This was not an exhibit that was presented before trial. This in the state's exhibit list, they just had an extraction from an unidentified phone extraction, and so this was not disclosed to us which extraction was being used, and also it was not disclosed. This entire report was not disclosed that they were going to use this exhibit.
Your Honor, if I may respond.
Go ahead.
This is a report from their expert who they called as a witness from a message from their client, and we filed the actual message as an exhibit, and they objected to authentication and foundation for that exhibit. So that is why I'm having the witness go the long way through the actual report to confirm it was in his full report before we work with the actual exhibit. And I believe in reference to our exhibit list, we confirmed that it was in a report sent to us from Sean Castle's digital extraction on the physical drive produced by applicant during discovery. And if there had been any question as to what report or where in that data it was, we would have been happy to provide that, but no such clarification was requested.
It's getting spicy.
May I please speak for a moment? I can probably clarify this. They gave us a one-page doc. May I please?
Go ahead.
They gave us a one-page document. First of all, it doesn't have the same information as what we provided to them. We have no idea who did that actual extraction, and even more concerning is it doesn't have the same information that's on the report that we gave them. So I think maybe if we confer for a second, we can maybe figure it out or approach, but we've never seen what they're reading before.
Your Honor, I think I can simply have the witness lay foundation of how reports are generated in Cellbrite from a Cellbrite reader file, and he can explain to counsel how those are generated and printed, or we can substitute it with the full report if they want the entire thing that they produced and gave to us.
Well, okay, counsel, I can give you a couple of minutes to visit if you think that will put an end to the objections. Certainly it would seem to me that the full report could come in if it's something that this witness generated. Now, I don't want dozens more pages of information that maybe isn't relevant or
that might be hundreds.
Shouldn't need to be reviewed. If we can whittle it down to one, that would be great. But so again, I don't know what's different on the proposed one page from the full report. I haven't had a chance to compare those. If you think a couple of minutes to confer would be useful, sure. I would suggest that we do that. Why don't we go off the record for a few minutes? Let me know when you're ready. The court will recess while you do that. Give everybody a chance to stretch their legs. Mr. Castle, you may step down.
All righty. We're gonna skippity doo-dah ahead because we can. They're recessing for a few minutes. Waiting to see if they've come back yet. I don't think they have. Nope, they have not come back yet. Judge is getting frustrated. Are you guys sensing this in her voice? There's a little bit of frustration in her voice as she is the delays in this case, the fighting back and forth, and a lot. I think the judge sees that a lot of the objections and the argument back and forth is gamesmanship in front of the jury, right? To win the jury over. And she's like, how many times do you have to sell you guys? It's a bench trial. There's no jury. I'm the only one. What I like about this bench trial is we didn't have to go through how cell towers worked and explain how antennas are located and, the triangulation of a signal using different antennas and the best signal and the heights and the maps and everything, because the judge has heard that a million times already. And they didn't go deep into that. But yeah, she's frustrated. She always seems to have, every time she has to intervene or rule on an objection, she always has this, this it looks like she's got, this is the cause of her major migraine, right? Is whatever you just did just caused the major migraine. So she's frustrated. I think she's confident that she could go a lot faster than what they're doing. But I love the speed of the state, especially on 1.25 speed. They're go-getters. They're super aggressive, right? Super aggressive. More so than the lawyers for Mr. Mullis. Did they ever say why cell tower location matters here other than tattoo? I think some parts were sort of excluded, and I have to give the Mullis team a little bit of credit there. They probably had an argument or a line of questioning lined up that based itself off a few things early on in this witness's testimony, which were ruled as sort of like not allowed to go in. So they're having to scramble here now, and that's why they're struggling with the questions and trying to get another angle to get to the same point, because the state effectively through objection, I think, excluded some of those key foundational principles and ideas and testimony that would allow a lot of this to go smoother and be a little better. All right. October says, I also have a migraine. I want the judge to snap a little bit. I want to see that side of her. I realize judicial restraint is something that is admirable and should be sought out by every judge. But I just want to see what she's like a little bit when she's had enough, because I think we're close. I've seen that same sort of look when I was a kid from my mom. You know, after I did something really stupid, I've seen that look, and I know there's a next level that can come. I just want to see the judge come in with their mom voice and lay down the law and whip everyone back into shape. If he gets a new trial, will he be able to get out until the trial? It depends, Moonage, and it depends on the law. I'm not sure how it is in Iowa. In some places, depending on the conviction and how long you've been in before the new trial is ordered, sometimes you're let out and sometimes you're held pending the new trial. So he would probably be held pending a new trial. It would be my guess. Is the judge's calendar cleared for next week? We might only have 2 other witnesses. The reason why I think that is because defense, who is the state in this case, because they are the defendant, they're the one that raised to the court. They're like, hey, I just want the court to know we have 2 witnesses who have traveled from out of town who are here, and they're here right now. So just heads up. And Mr. Mullis's lawyers are like, yeah, we agree with the state. We'd like to finish this witness testimony expeditiously and move on. I think the state brought it up because they're the state's witnesses. So we may be very, very close to shifting over to the defense side of things. All right. She's definitely been up on the line. 1, 2, 3. Never let mom take it to the 3. Yes. Is there a scolding going on? No, not really. I think everyone's coming back in. Well, possibly, because they all went back in chambers. So there's a chance they sorted some things out back there.
I think I'm about to catch a whooping.
If you guys missed my story from this morning, I did wax a little eloquent this morning and shared what I would term a series of unfortunate events that's all tied together, that involves my neighbor and the things he's going through as he's progressing in age. My other neighbor who invaded my basement the other day without my permission, the water crew who maintains the gutters, and the garbage man. If you missed that story, I would encourage you to go back and watch this morning's live stream and catch that story. I might make it a short. I don't know. I might provide it for everybody. It was a great story, says Selena K. If he gets a new trial, does he still have the right to a speedy trial? I don't know if he waived right to speedy trial on this one. I think, let's see, when did this happen? If he waived it previously, I think that waiver is still in effect. But yeah, they'd be pretty quick about it, I think, especially if he's in custody. It's 40 degrees here, and people are acting like it's 80. I'm wearing shorts and short-sleeve shirt. Terry started this morning about 9:45 a.m. Eastern time. Nebraska girl. I didn't plan on telling that story, and it just sort of all came out, and it turns out that everything was connected. So the funny part was having the city call me after. I called the city to complain, right? I filed the complaint, and I'm like, get the manager on the phone, have him call me. And then I get a call from the town. They're like, hey, the caller ID shows the town's calling. And I pick up the phone. I'm like, what? Who is it? And they're like, hey, you need to pay your water bill. We just decided last month not to accept the credit card you use to auto pay your bill. So now we're telling you, and it's late. I'm like, well, thanks now that it's late for telling me. And then I had her transfer me to the police. So it went from her calling me to me talking to the police to file a complaint about the neighbor who got into my basement because of the water guys. And the water guys, who happened to be, I think, also on the garbage crew, who picked up the garbage but left the garbage in the street, which was garbage that was left in the street, was something that my neighbor had gifted me, who in his elderly years was throwing out something from his freezer he didn't need anymore, and I didn't want it, but I didn't want to tell him. And then it ended up that having to go over and help my neighbor this morning with his TV, I came out to see that garbage on the road, and he saw it as well, and he saw that I had thrown it away. It's a weird story, but it is all connected. So I think the longer version is better. I went full Karen on the town. They're back, but we don't have any audio. So we have to wait for the audio to be turned on. And we're live now. So the cameras have not turned on the audio yet. So we just have to wait. This is pleasant though. Yeah, so more stories like that coming tonight on the Not Relevant podcast. 8 o'clock here on the channel. Do join us. No, don't call it. It's an improvement, says October. Deb in Indiana, I'm so sorry you're sick. Do get better quickly. I'm glad we can brighten your days a little bit. I can tell the story again. I might share it again tonight, because there's some people. I ran over some foam with my chair and it's squeaky. It's my foot roller foam. I made my own roll with foam. Deanie, we don't have any sound either right now. It's a sad day. It's a sad day. I can try to make it come back, but there is no sound. Yeah. You had one job. You had one job. I think the cameraman was like, look, I'm tired of this whispering too. I'm going to fix it for you.
An unknown reason, they were not able to fully process the data. Therefore, the DVR was submitted to my office for further examination.
Can I have just one moment?
Certainly.
came back just in time to hear some more whispering. I'm just looking at the judge's chair. That does not look comfortable. There's like zero padding there. Big shout out, by the way, to Trial TV Live. Squeegee of Justice, who was here. Chris, welcome. Good friends of the channel. Very well worth a follow. Trial TV Live.
May. So this is not a complete, the state's, first of all, can you hear me?
Now we can.
We'd like to read in just the full content of that message that the state just read into the record, or the full message and a response to it, so if I may do that. Or
rule of
we'd like
completeness.
to offer again the text messages between Todd and Amy Mullis that give the full content of that message, because this is just a snippet of the extraction, not the full extraction. So we would just like to provide the full context of what that message is about, not.
Your Honor, I apologize, but I'm confused. I believe the exhibit I read from is already in evidence. Is counsel intending to read from a different portion that's already in evidence? I'm unclear.
I guess I'm not sure. Are you planning on reading or asking to read from 307?
Yes.
Yep. Their text messages. What's the exhibit number?
307.
And I guess for just clarity of the record, briefly, I wasn't intending to testify when I read that message in. It was only because it was abstracted from an exhibit number, and the e-filing stamp was the only reason I read it that way.
But you did.
And is the reading attached to a question for this witness or not?
You need to say under the rule of completeness.
Sure. I mean, is it being read because there's a question that goes with the reading, or?
I think our argument is that we just want to have the rule of completeness, that the whole text conversation is considered as a whole instead of just that one isolated text message. And so,
well, okay, and so that's my job in reading the exhibit, which I will do. You know, we've put this witness through a lot of hours of testimony, and so I think right now we need to focus on what questions we have for this witness. And so he doesn't need to read that whole exhibit unless there is a question for him.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
May I resume?
Yes.
Based on your review of the digital forensic data, were you able to determine that multiple devices were logged into Todd Mullis 76 Google account?
Yes.
And so would this indicate that the Google search history presented at trial could be from multiple devices?
Yes.
One moment, Your Honor. Sorry. You can take down the exhibit.
It's like they prepared this whole trial for a jury trial, and it's a bench trial. I think you should just say. I have not determined which Lego set I'm going to get, but I've done a lot of research. I'm leaning a couple directions, if you can do that.
Your Honor, I just wanted to clarify for the record, we will, at a later time, renew our motion about the DVR records, extraction records. However, we will not use Mr. Castle's time any longer, so no further questions on behalf of the applicant.
All right, any recross?
Nothing additional, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Castle. You may step down.
Thank you.
Further evidence on behalf of the applicant?
Yes, Your Honor, we will call Mr. Fire.
Sure.
We're making some progress. I will say on the Lego choice, I think I want about 500 to 600 pieces, because it has to keep me entertained for about 3 hours. Everyone shuffles chairs. Nebraska Girl, I'm doing a live stream. I've been invited on Valhalla Awaits, and it's a Lego build interview. So we all build Lego sets at the same time while we just have a casual interview for 2 or 3 hours. So I'm going to have a Lego set. I haven't built a Lego set since I was a child. I've played with Legos, but I need to bring my own Lego set.
Good afternoon. You've been called as a witness. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be true and correct?
I do.
Go ahead. Take your time. Have a seat there. Feel free to adjust the chair and the microphone so you can sit comfortably. Ms. Nichols-Cook, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name for the record and spell your last name for the court reporter?
It's Gerald Burton Firehelm, F-E-U-E-R-H-E-L-M.
And do you also go by Jake?
Yes.
Is he a lawyer?
Prefer that.
Have you previously been deposed regarding your representation of Todd Mullis?
Yes.
And did you previously sign an affidavit regarding this case?
Yes.
And are you an attorney?
I am.
Have you always practiced in Iowa?
Yes.
What area of law do you generally practice in?
Almost exclusively criminal defense.
In general, how many years have you been practicing?
46, 45
What was that
and a half.
noise? Is it like a ghost? You guys hear
Has
that?
the type of evidence in a criminal case changed in any way between the time you started practicing in criminal law till today?
Yes, lots of technology.
And are you employed by a firm or do you have your own firm? Where do you work?
I'm a PC, but I'm the solo attorney.
Okay. Have you ever had a legal assistant or support staff person work with you?
Yes.
When you represented Todd Mullis in 2018 and 2019, did you have an assistant?
Yes.
What was her name?
Christy Klein, K-L-Y-N.
What types of things would Christy do for you?
Everything from answering the phone, scheduling appointments, accumulating and organizing discovery materials. Pretty broad.
Everything but argue cases in court.
What she did.
Over your decades of experience in the criminal law area, have you represented individuals charged with Class A felonies?
Yes.
Do you know approximately how many of them went to trial?
Eight or 10.
In your experience, have you ever consulted with an expert witness for the purposes of representation of a person charged with a Class A felony?
Yes.
Have you consulted with an expert about determining cause of death?
Yes.
Have you consulted with an expert regarding digital forensic evidence such as cell phone extractions or cell tower data?
Both.
How often have you used an investigator on a Class A felony?
I would say about half of the cases.
Do you belong to any bar associations?
Iowa State Bar Association, Iowa Association for Justice, and the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers.
And are you aware of the American Bar Association?
Yes.
Yes, he's aware.
Are you aware that the American Bar Association has issued a defense function standard?
Yes.
This witness
Would
is
you
Todd Mullis'
agree with
former
me
lawyer.
that the prevailing standards for defense attorneys recommend that you continue to reevaluate your need for investigation or experts?
That sounds correct, yes.
I want to turn now to your involvement with Mr. Mullis.
Okay.
How did you come to meet Todd Mullis?
An attorney in Dubuque, I believe, his name is Joey Hoover, who practiced in Polk County, and I knew him from there. I don't know how he knew Mr. Mullis or was connected to him, but as I understand it, Joey had contacted a friend of mine, Roger Owens, who I've tried Class A's with on several occasions, and wanted to know if Roger would be interested in getting involved in Mr. Mullis's case. Roger contacted me and said he didn't want to take a case so far out of Des Moines. Thank you. And encouraged me to call Joey about it, and that's how it came to be.
Thank you.
I don't know. I wonder what he's going to say.
At the time that you learned about Mr. Mullis's criminal case, do you recall if he had been arrested or not?
I believe he had.
Did you meet with Mr. Mullis and enter into an engagement letter or anything like that?
I think the first thing I did is I made arrangements with his sister and brother to go out to the farm and have them show me the location of the incident. And I talked to Lynn about whether or not they wanted to retain me. I had not yet met with Todd.
Do you know Lynn's last name?
I'm not sure.
If I told you it was Lynn White, would you?
That was going to be my guess.
Okay. Was there another attorney that you worked with on Mr. Mullis's criminal case?
Bob Sabers from Dubuque.
Had you ever worked on a case with Mr. Sabers before?
I'd never met him.
Never even met him?
No.
How did you communicate with Mr. Sabers as co-counsel?
Probably equally phones and emails.
Do you know how often you talked to Todd Mullis while his criminal case was pending?
I really couldn't even guess.
Do you know if Mr. Mullis would call you from jail?
I believe he did.
And was your office set up to accept those types of calls?
Yes.
Do you know if Mr. Mullis sent you letters or wrote notes to you?
Letters mostly.
And I think you mentioned earlier that one reason you'd gotten the referral was because it wasn't that close to where your office was, or it wasn't that close to Des Moines.
Well, Roger Owens didn't want to get involved because this location was, he didn't want to travel that far to represent somebody, and I was willing to do that.
Do you recall what county Mr. Mullis was being held in?
Independence, I believe. I think that's Buchanan, maybe.
Did you have a regular practice or policy of how you communicated with your clients that were incarcerated?
I prefer meeting them in person, and the jail over in Independence accommodated that, and those phone calls.
Did you speak to Mr. Mullis once a week or once every 2 weeks? Did you have any sort of regular schedule?
I don't think we had really a schedule. I think it would be like if something came up on my end, I would set up a phone call, or if he sent me a letter that had some request or a question in it, I'd respond to that either by a visit or a phone call.
Do you recall ever writing Mr. Mullis letters and sending them to the jail?
I don't think so.
Was it your practice in this case to take internal notes about visits or phone calls with your client?
I'm sure I did, on maybe not every time, but yes, I did.
And did you provide your file to subsequent counsel?
Yes, I did. I just gave everything I had to Aaron Hamrock and Tim McCarthy.
I think you have seen some of these letters in your deposition, but just so that we're all on the same page, I'm going to ask that we display Exhibit 233. Are they showing?
No.
Okay.
Doesn't look like it's connected, but so I'm not sure.
And we can scroll for you when you're ready. I think that one has several pages.
Does anyone know for sure what candy she's sucking on? Is it a cough drop or Werther's or a everlasting gobstopper? I'm going to go with the last one because she's had it for a while.
I don't want to rush you, but do those documents appear to be letters from Todd Mullis to you?
I believe they are, yes.
Trial TV Live re-aired this case around Christmas time, I think.
Do you recall reviewing these letters during your representation of Mr. Mullis before his trial?
Yes.
And am I understanding correctly that your response to any questions Mr. Mullis had would have only been relayed to him in person during a visit or a phone call?
I believe so.
I want to just look at the very bottom of page 1 of 233, the last paragraph. That should be the bottom of page 1. Do you see a paragraph at the bottom of page 1?
Is there any expert that starts out?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you recall Mr. Mullis asking you about an expert to be used in his defense?
Well, that is posed as a question there.
Okay.
Yes.
And at this time, what was Mr. Mullis's position as to how his wife had died?
He believed it was an accident.
And could this paragraph in this letter be him asking you to get an expert to show it was an accident?
Your Honor, I'm going to object on a couple things. This is one of the exhibits specifically that we had objected to: authenticity, accuracy, identity, or foundation. The letter's undated. It specifically has no identifying information as to the date, time, or otherwise. And also it's hearsay because Mr. Mullis' statements are not statements of a party opponent and therefore are being offered directly to in violation of Rule 5802 and 3.
If there are objections to the exhibit, it should probably be admitted before it's specifically referred to. Would you like to respond to the objections?
Sure. Thank you, Your Honor. We've laid some foundation that Mr. Firehelm received letters from Mr. Mullis from jail. He identified these as being letters that he remembers receiving. I could ask Mr. Firehelm the dates of his representation. I do think the record reflects when Mr. Mullis was arrested and when he went to trial. And I guess I don't see how 802 and 803 would prevent a request from a client to his attorney when that is the claim on post-conviction of ineffective assistance to counsel that we have the burden to show, and I have to elicit evidence about what Mr. Firehelm did or didn't do.
I assume these are being offered to show the effect or lack of effect, perhaps, on the reader or recipient.
That's a better response. So
233 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Coming in.
Mr. Firehelm, did you understand Mr. Mullis to be asking you to hire or retain an expert to determine if you could put on evidence that Ms. Mullis died in an accident?
I don't know if excuse me, I don't know if I'd characterize it as a request. It reminds me, that paragraph, of a number of times when, to me, it was like Todd was kind of like shotgunning or spitballing ideas of what about this, what about that, and so forth. So I don't know if I would say that that was a specific request, more of a what about this, or how would this be something to think about or talk about.
Interesting response. Was she crunching the candy?
Did you contact any experts regarding the manner of Amy Mullis's death?
No.
Did you review any literature or do any investigation into an accidental manner of death?
I reviewed discovery material, which included the manner of death, to allow me to assess whether or not it was an accident or homicide.
And outside of the discovery materials provided to you by the Attorney General's office, did you do anything else?
No other materials or individuals, no.
If we can scroll to page 2.
So they've shown he took no action.
In the middle of the page, there's a sentence that refers to looking at the clothing.
Yes.
Is this a request for you or a question for you about examining Amy's clothing that she was wearing when she was injured?
I guess my answer would be similar. I don't know if it's a request or just an idea.
Okay. Did you ever go look at the physical items of clothing that Amy was wearing on November 10th?
I did not. I don't know if Bob did or not.
Okay. I would never ask you to tell me what Bob said.
Okay.
What did you understand that there were 3 items of clothing that the state medical examiner had looked at during her autopsy?
I think that's right.
If you go down a little farther on the bottom of page 2, there's a reference about iPads and Amy using the iPad. Do you see that?
Yeah. Yes.
Where in tech?
It's kind of around the highlight and the very it's not a paragraph, but towards the very end of the letter. Amy used that iPad.
Is this page 5 of the exhibit? Got it. Thank you.
Do you see the portion I'm referencing, Mr. Firehome?
Yes.
This is awkward questioning because you're literally your whole argument from this attorney is that the guy on the stand did it wrong.
I'm fighting off a cold. Mr. Firehome, was the iPad a piece of evidence at Mr. Mullis's trial, or the data from the iPad?
I think the data was.
And what did you do when your client brought up the issue of the iPad and who used it to investigate that?
Well, here where he was mentioning multiple people using the iPad. I believe that's something that Bob and I either talked about or traded emails about. I think I saw one where Christy maybe responded to one of Bob's questions about that.
Did you interview any witnesses about who had access to the Mullis family iPad?
Just Mr. Mullis, I think. Maybe Lynn and I may have talked about that too.
Did you take any steps to learn about the password to the iPad?
I don't recall.
Just one moment here. I think I'm done with 233 and we can take it down. Mr. Firehelm, you mentioned you spoke with Todd's sister, Lynn. Do you remember how you communicated with her during your representation of Todd?
I'd say a vast majority was by phone, and there were some emails.
Was she also in communication with Todd while he was incarcerated?
I think she was, yes.
Do you recall her reaching out to you with requests to meet with Todd?
Lynn was good about reaching out to me after she talked to Todd about either him wanting to talk to me or see me, or maybe even a specific thing he wanted looked into or checked on.
I'm going to represent to you that Todd was arrested at the end of February 2019. Do you know what your first task was after you were retained and began representing Mr. Mullis?
I think my trip to the farm to meet with Mike and Lynn was the first thing.
Okay. And then did you file any motions or take any action in court?
From the get-go, there was a lot of effort put into trying to get Todd out of jail with bond review. I spoke with the bail bond company in Des Moines that I was familiar with and had worked with. Talked to Todd, Lynn about resources to acquire a bond.
And would that work have been separate from investigating the charges against Mr. Mullis?
Yes.
Do you recall a time where you requested discovery from the state of Iowa?
I don't know the time, but that probably would have been one of the first things that I did.
When discovery came into your office, what was your process?
I would review it, at least scan it. I don't mean scan it like to copy it, but to look at it. And then talk to Christy, and then Christy was great at organizing, setting up tabs, indexing things, that kind of thing. And then I'd go back and go through it after she had that organization completed.
Are you a paper guy? Do you like hard copies?
She called me the tree killer. Yes, I prefer
I'm
paper.
sure she meant that with all the love.
No, I preferred paper.
So did Christy handle compiling discovery that was tendered to you in an electronic format and making it into paper for you?
Yes.
At the time that you went to trial in September of 2019, did you know if the state had withheld any discovery, or did you identify anything that was missing?
I did not identify anything, and I was assuming the state had produced what they were supposed to.
If we can put up Exhibits 201, I believe you saw these in your deposition. I'm going to show you 201 and 202.
Gotta switch to standing here. She's going slowly.
Just let me know when you have had a chance to look at 201.
Okay.
Do you recognize that document?
I believe Angela showed this to me in my deposition, and I don't think I do.
And do you remember testifying in your deposition that you'd never seen it before Todd's criminal trial?
I think that's correct.
And we can scroll through it if you like. It's only 2 pages, but Does this purport to be case log notes from the state medical examiner's office?
He's already been admitted, correct?
Yeah, it looks like it.
And I believe 201 and 22 are already admitted. Did you learn that the state medical examiner had made comments to DCI that Amy Mullis's manner of death could have been accidental or a fall?
Objection mischaracterizes the evidence from record.
Counsel, I guess, would you like to rephrase your question, or do you take the position that that's an accurate summary of the statement that was made?
I can withdraw the question and ask another one if you like, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Was it inaccurate?
Let me just find the spot here. Okay. If we look at the bottom of page 1, there is a paragraph under November 14th, 2018. Do you see that paragraph?
Right now, the witness has page 2 in front of him, so somebody will need
Page
to
1,
change
please.
that.
What date did you say?
It's towards the bottom of the page, November 14th, 2018.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
So, if we go down towards the bottom, there is a sentence that begins, Agent Turbot stated.
Yes, I see it.
If you read that, is that new information to you about what DCI was telling the medical examiner?
I think it is, yes.
Okay. And is that type of information that you would have wanted to know for your cross-examination of the state medical examiner?
Sure.
Could it have explained where she was getting her information?
Yes, but in other homicide cases that I've been involved in, I've seen this type of exchange between the medical examiners and like a lead investigator. But I just don't think I saw this one.
Okay. We can go to 202.
Are you freaking out yet? Did you hear that? Are you freaking
Exhibit
out yet?
202 has also been admitted, and it is 2 pages. If you could review that, and I'll just ask that we scroll slowly.
I'm going to go back and listen on the replay for that.
Mr. Firehelm, do these also appear to be notes about conversations with the state medical examiner?
That's what it looks like.
Okay, and does this, and we can scroll for you if you like, that contain information obtained from the autopsy about injuries?
It appears so.
Does it indicate how long Ms. Mullis would have survived after her injury?
I don't see anything like that on page 2.
I think it might be page 1 at the very bottom.
Yeah, it says, so hard to tell how long she was alive, at least minutes she was alive, not immediately fatal.
That seems strange that
Would you have wanted to have these notes available to you
alive
at trial to cross-examine the DCI agent, Mr. Turbot, who provided this information or made these notes?
Yes.
Does it also discuss whether Amy Mullis's injuries could have been from a fall, or if so, why not?
There's indications in there about whether it was accident or intentional.
And Mr. Farrell, the first time you saw these documents was during your deposition in 2023?
I believe so.
Okay, we can take that one down. Do you remember the name Deputy Keith Rowley?
I don't recognize that.
Have you learned, I'm sorry, let me start over. Do you recall the state filing a motion in limine pre-trial to limit the use of a deputy's name who'd had a prior affair with Amy Mullis?
I'm pretty sure I remember that, yes.
Did you ever learn who that deputy was?
I think we knew the name, yes.
Did you ever receive any documents or information that Deputy Rowley was cleared as a suspect from being involved in Amy Mullis's death?
I don't ever remember seeing any documentation.
Do you remember hearing anything in depositions about clearing Deputy Rowley?
There might have been. The only thing I remember specifically about depositions in that issue was how the case was assigned within the sheriff's office for investigation.
Do you recall seeing any patrol logs for any of the sheriff's deputies from Delaware County on the day that Amy died?
I do not.
Do you recall seeing them during your deposition?
The one of my deposition?
Yes.
I don't recall.
Just a moment, I'm going to pull those up for you. I lost the number, so I apologize for the delay. Okay, should be exhibit 323. Starting came in as a demo exhibit. Okay, 209. I'm sorry. Let me know when you have a chance to look at that, Mr. Fairham.
Just noticed my shirt is a little see-through today.
Mr. Firehelm, if you could scroll through 209 a little bit. It's 12 pages. And when you're ready, let me know what you see.
It looks like a log that a deputy would maintain about activities on their shift.
And at trial, in preparation for trial, would it have been helpful for you to know whether other people were near the Mullis farm November 10th?
It's helpful to have as much information as you can, and that was something that we talked about.
Okay, we can take that one down. Did you hire an investigator to help you investigate or to represent Todd Mullis?
Did not hire one.
Do you remember who Jerry Frazier is?
Yes.
Before trial, did you know or investigate where he was on November 10th, 2018?
Yes.
How did you know that?
From discovery material and his deposition.
She did say, "Are you freaking out yet?" They are really excited about this testimony.
Okay, I want to show you Exhibit 212. It should be Frazier cell phone record. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have 212 for that one. Just 213 and 214. Let me know when you've had a chance to look at 213.
Yeah, that's the cover page of report.
Have you had a chance to review that?
I don't recall seeing that document.
Okay. Do you recall being asked about cell phone tower records or cell phone records for Jerry Frazier in your 2023 deposition?
I think Angela asked about that.
Do you recall saying that you were surprised to hear testimony about Frazier's location by cell phone tower?
If that's what I said.
Would you like to review your deposition?
Sure, I don't remember that question and answer.
If we could pull up 323 and scroll to the bottom of 42. And if you could review page 42 and 43.
Okay, I do kind of remember this now, yes.
Okay. Do you recall at Mr. Mullis's criminal trial making arguments that Amy could have been killed by Jerry Frazier because of their affair?
Third-party culprit introduced.
I don't remember that specifically, but I could have.
Do you recall your closing argument at the criminal trial?
Not any details, no.
Do you recall whether you argued to the jury that Jerry Frazier was the perpetrator, not Todd?
If that's what the transcript says, I wouldn't obviously deny it.
Okay, let me ask a different question. In your mind, leading up to Todd's trial, was Jerry Frazier a suspect in Amy's death?
I would say yes.
Okay. And if you look at 42, page 42, line 22, the question asked of you is, okay, but would it be fair to say you were surprised to hear a state witness say they had conducted cell tower analysis and verified Jerry Frazier's location by cell tower analysis? And then at the top of 43, your answer is, I would have to say that would have been a surprise, yeah. Do you recall giving that testimony?
Yes.
Okay. If you had had information that Jerry Frazier was not on the Mullis farm November 10th or near it because of cell phone tower data, would you have still argued that he could have killed Amy?
I think you could because of the relationship that they had.
Did you consider that the state had evidence giving Jerry Frazier an alibi for the time that Amy was hurt?
I don't know.
I've isolated the "Are you freaking out yet?"
I want to move on
play
from
it for you
Mr.
as soon as they
Frazier.
pause for a second.
Do you recall deposing Dr. Kelly Cruz from the state medical examiner's office?
Yes.
Do you recall being asked about reviewing that autopsy report in your 2023 deposition?
I think so.
And
I'm playing it now. Ready?
what actions did you take after you reviewed that autopsy report to investigate it or to verify the opinions within it?
I don't believe I consulted anybody other than talking to Bob about it that I recall.
Okay. Do you remember testifying in your deposition that it was your personal opinion that you agreed with Dr. Cruz?
I think it did, yes.
You're freaking out, yeah.
And you don't have any forensic pathologist training, is that fair?
No.
Okay.
Just isolated it, cranked the gain up about 40 decibels.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the Google searches that were offered at Mr. Mullis's trial. Do you recall that evidence?
Yes.
Do you recall who testified about the Google searches?
I can't remember which state witness did.
If I told you it was law enforcement, would you accept that?
I think I would, yes.
Okay. Did you do any investigation or take any steps to determine if those officers were qualified to testify regarding cell phone data extractions?
They may have mentioned it in their depositions, but I don't recall specifically.
And did you contact your own digital forensic expert to review the data?
No.
That was said between council members here on camera. Right
Do you remember testifying in your deposition that the Google searches were harmful to Todd?
Yes.
And do you recall if the Google searches were how the state was using those in their case in chief?
Well, I think they were trying to show that some of the searches were rather specific about harming someone, cheating spouses, that kind of thing.
Would you characterize that as motive evidence?
Sure.
If you had evidence that Todd did not conduct those searches, would you have used that at trial?
Yes.
Do you recall Todd writing letters and having discussions with you about those Google searches?
It came up in letters, it came up in meetings at the jail, phone calls. Yes.
Did you present any evidence in Todd's defense that he did not make those searches?
I recall during cross-examination of some state's witness, and it would have been law enforcement, that there were some obvious searches that, like looking for a dress or something like that, or jewelry, that kind of thing. So I felt that the point was made that not all those searches were done by Todd.
Did you do any work to determine where Todd was on the day of the most offensive searches? The ones that you referenced earlier about unfaithful women?
I don't think so, no.
Do you recall researching or drafting a motion to limit the admission of those Google searches because they were not close in time to Amy's death?
I don't think so.
Did you consider that if searches were being done in May, where Todd would have been at that time?
It's a weak argument. He would have been in the field
planting.
planting.
Make that connection, no.
Did you know that your client, Todd Mullis, was a crop farmer?
Yes.
And as a lifelong Iowan, Do you know when planting season usually is?
Yep.
When is that?
Depending on the spring, sometimes it's April into May.
Do you recall discussions with your client about his kids taking a hunter safety course?
Yes.
Did you take any actions to determine what that entailed?
I didn't research. I relied on what Todd told me about it.
If we can show the witness 306, but not publish.
Should be.
Mr. Firehelm, can you identify the document? Tell me what the name of it is.
It's titled Today's Hunter, Hunter, and down below it says A Guide to Hunting Responsibly and Safely.
Do you know what topics a person needs to learn about to get a hunter safety certificate?
No, I don't. I grew up hunting, but I never took a course.
If you had reviewed this guide before trial and it included information about hypothermia and organs of the body or things like that, could you have used that to explain the Google searches the state presented as motive for Todd to kill Amy?
I think that's reasonable, yeah.
And did you understand that Todd was charged with first-degree murder, which included premeditation or planning, right?
Sure.
If I could show you 223. Do you remember discussing with Mr. Sabers about whether you should hire a computer expert? And I'm showing you an email from May of 2019. If you could tell us when you've reviewed it and identify it for me.
It's going kind of fast, but yeah, it looks like an exchange between myself and Bob and Lynn White.
And did you ever consult with a computer expert or digital forensic expert?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. We can take that one down.
Yeah, he almost has to fall on his sword for them to win this argument, right?
Do you remember evidence being tendered to you that included text messages between Ms. Mullis and friends of hers?
Yeah, I think so.
Did you interview any of those friends about those messages?
No interviews, no.
Do you recall deposing some of them?
I think we did, yeah.
Did you seek to issue any subpoenas for cell phone records as part of your defense investigation or preparation?
I don't recall doing that, no.
Do you recall filing a motion in limine before trial asking to prohibit witnesses from testifying to hearsay, especially relevant to the friends of Amy and what Amy had told them about Todd?
I think there was a motion, yes.
Do you recall getting a ruling on that before trial?
Yes.
What was that ruling, if you remember?
Not favorable to our request to limit the evidence.
Do you recall discussing this with Bob Sabers?
Yes.
So the burden here, the hurdle is the Strickland test, a two-pronged test.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can we show the witness Exhibit 219, an email with Mr. Sabers?
One part has to be deficient performance, where the defense attorney's performance must be objectively deficient. The second is prejudice, meaning there must be a reasonable probability that the competent attorney would have led to a different outcome. You have to prove both of those with this witness
email exchange
to prevail.
Not specifically, but I'm not saying I didn't get it.
If the docket reflects that the judge did not issue a ruling on your motion in limine and reserved it for trial, would you disagree?
Without certainty, no, I wouldn't disagree.
Are you familiar with making hearsay objections during a criminal trial?
Yes.
If you made objections, would those be reflected in the trial transcripts?
Sure.
Do you remember a statement by a friend of Ms. Mullis's, Terry Stainer, to the effect of, "Look for me in the timber if I go missing"?
I remember that specifically.
Was that one of the statements that you intended to address with your motion in limine?
That and others like it.
Why that statement and others like it?
Well, it indicated Amy's state of mind and her fear that Todd would harm her.
Did you consider those types of hearsay statements to connote a guilty inference that you would have wanted to keep out of the trial?
Yes.
Do you recall if you and Mr. Sabers discussed what your roles were going to be at the trial?
I don't recall a specific discussion, but I think throughout I was the lead counsel and he was taking notes and making suggestions and talking to Todd and that kind of thing.
Do you recall if he passed you notes during the trial?
He did.
I apologize. Excuse me. Do you recall if you read them?
I got notes, I didn't read them.
That's difficult to do during a trial. You glance at them, talk about them during a break, that kind of thing.
Did Mr. Sabers handle any witnesses at this trial?
I don't think he did, no.
Do you recall any discussions about who was going to do the opening statement?
I don't think we ever discussed it.
Did you draft an opening statement to review with your client before trial began?
I normally have, I don't know if you'd call it an outline or notes, but not really a draft, word for word. And I don't recall sharing with Todd about the content of the opening statement before we went to trial.
Do you remember what the premise of your opening statement was?
that Amy was murdered, but not by Todd.
What evidence did you plan to present to show that?
The focus was on Tristan and his testimony about the events of that morning, of who was where.
Did you have any other witnesses or evidence that you planned to present?
He based it on the kid's testimony, saying he was in the shed?
I think we called a couple witnesses that had contact with Tristan after, that took him home from the hospital after this had occurred.
Did you have an alternate suspect or another person in mind that you were going to suggest was responsible for Amy's death?
No, I think I talked about that with Todd and Bob, that it wasn't our job to find out who did it. It just cast doubt about Todd being responsible.
Did your client, Mr. Mullis, ever agree to your decision to make that statement in your opening statement?
I never asked him if I could, and he never told me I couldn't. I think going clear back to early on in the case, I made it clear that I did not believe this was an accident and that she was murdered.
And that was based on your own personal opinion or evaluation of the autopsy report?
Ouch.
Autopsy report, police reports, life experiences.
I told my client.
And you don't recall
it's murder.
Writing any letters to Todd explaining that or asking him if he was in agreement?
I'm sure there weren't any letters. Again, we just generally talked about our theme of the trial.
Do you recall that Tristan testified via closed circuit television at this criminal trial?
He did.
Do you recall how old he would have been?
14, I think.
You put the whole case on a 14-year-old's shoulders.
And I think you testified a little bit earlier that part of your plan was to focus on Tristan, right?
Yes, significantly.
Did you consider Tristan to be Todd's alibi?
Yes.
Laura, thank you very much.
Do you recall there being an issue between Tristan's pretrial deposition and his trial testimony?
Yes.
Did you do any investigation or take any steps to learn more about the slight change in Tristan's testimony?
There's another train, ghost train.
If I'm recalling the events accurately, Tristan testified in a deposition, and he gave testimony about the amount of time he would have been absent from a location in the hog barn where he could see Todd. And he gave a time frame that was relatively short. And then afterwards, he met with his attorney, and that attorney came back and said that Tristan said he had made a mistake.
And I guess my question is, did you take any action to look into that?
The action I took, and I believe it's indicated in an email is that I contacted Todd about this development with Tristan and suggested that we needed more time to do that. But Todd was adamant that he did not want to continue the trial. So other than that...
Is that Tristan? On the right?
You know, Lynn had provided me with some drone photographs of the hog barn and the shed where Amy was found and that kind of thing. So we used those to show the significant distance between the barns. And if Todd did leave Tristan's eye shot, even for the longer time that Tristan said, I think it was 30 seconds, I don't know what, it would have been impossible to leave the far end of the hog barn, go to the shed, do whatever happened there, and then get back before Tristan missed him.
So that covers everything that you did do.
Yes.
To corroborate or to investigate Tristan's testimony?
Yes.
Do you recall why you called Mr. Mullis to testify at his trial?
One reason is that so many times when I've talked to jurors after trials, my conclusion was they expect to and want the defendant to testify that they didn't do it. Even though you tell them that in voir dire and so forth that they don't have to. And as late as the night before the beginning of the trial, when we met in the Dubuque County Jail, I'm not sure we had decided for sure if Todd was going to testify, but I left that meeting that night with the understanding that we both agreed that he would.
How did you prepare Mr. Mullis to testify?
In those meetings.
Did you ask him questions so he could practice his response?
I don't know if it was questions or answers. We just talked about topics that he would expect to be asked about.
Did you practice any potential cross questions that the prosecutor might ask him?
I don't think so.
No prep. And put the defendant on the stand in a murder trial. Oh.
Do you remember discussing with Todd that he needed to testify to rebut the Google searches?
I think that is one of the things we talked about, yes.
And was that in part because you didn't have an expert or anybody else to testify about whether Todd made those Google searches?
I don't think that was the reason, no.
Did you cross any other state witnesses about whether Todd Mullis could have done those searches?
There was cross-examination about some of the searches that seemed obvious that Todd would not have done. I can't remember what state witness that would have been.
Did you consider Todd's credibility to the jury after your opening statement?
I take that into account throughout.
Were you concerned that you had told the jury that Todd was wrong when he told investigators Amy died in an accident?
Would you repeat that, please?
Were you concerned about Todd's credibility in front of the jury when you had told the jury in opening that Todd was wrong when he told investigators Amy fell on the corn rake and it was an accident?
I don't think that comment was undermined his credibility. I think Todd honestly thought that when he said that thing. I just said, as we researched or prepared for trial, that was wrong.
Do you remember the 911 call in this case?
Whoa.
Yes.
Do you remember it stipulating to the foundation or the admission of it at trial?
I think so, yes.
Did you ever take the 911 call to the jail so Todd could listen to it before trial?
I think we had a transcript of it, but I don't ever recall playing the audio for him in jail.
Okay, this is looking terrible.
If you had been tendered a transcript, would that have been in the discovery?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm just clarifying, you didn't have a transcript made.
No, I don't think so.
Do you remember the prosecutor playing the 911 call during her cross-examination of Todd Mullis?
That was the first time you heard it?
Do you remember two comments towards the end of the call that the prosecutor emphasized?
I do.
Had you ever heard those before?
No.
Were those undisclosed statements made by a criminal defendant?
Objection calls for speculation and a conclusion that's well beyond the actual terms of what he can testify to. The evidence speaks for itself.
Overruled. The witness can answer if he's able.
Could you repeat?
Yeah, I'll rephrase. Are you familiar with rules of evidence that require the disclosure of statements made by a defendant?
Yes.
Before the cross-examination where the prosecutor played that call, had those statements ever been disclosed to you before? Purported statements. So sorry.
Well, the whole 911 call was, we always had that, the whole thing. But the contention that he said certain words, no.
And weren't those phrases highly inflammatory?
Yes.
Did you think Todd made those statements on that call?
I did not.
And you don't recall seeing them in any discovery or anybody telling you about them in a deposition?
No.
Have you made a motion for a mistrial before in a trial?
Yes.
Did you do so in this case?
No.
We can have just one moment. Do you recall the prosecutor telling you off the record that she was going to ask him about these specific statements?
I'm certain that she did not.
Do you recall taking any investigative steps to determine who would have been present at the time of those alleged or purported statements by Todd?
All the testimony we had leading up to this is starting to come
if
together.
I'm remembering correctly, the 911 call ended there on the gravel road when law enforcement and, well, first it was law enforcement people showed up. And that's about when supposedly he made these statements that the prosecutor brought up.
If you had had notice of these purported statements, could you have investigated or attempted to discredit that cross-examination question?
Yes, I actually took the 911 call after the trial was over and had it enhanced to try to see if I heard what supposedly was said.
Did you ever learn how the state came to make that argument?
I was told by the prosecutor.
It was an anonymous tip.
Did you get your own transcript of the call for post-trial motions or anything?
Because of the change in representation, I wasn't involved in the post-trial motions.
When did your representation end? That I should have asked you that first.
Between verdict and sentencing.
So you did not get a transcript of the call before your representation ended, am I right?
I think you're right. I'm not sure we ever had a transcript of it.
So no transcript of the call, no recording of the call. Surprise presentation played to his client while he was on the stand. They're not relitigating the case here. What they're doing is trying to show that this attorney did not function the way a competent attorney should have, the way he should have reacted, the way he should have objected, what he should have done to prep his client for a cross-examination. That's what they're trying to prove here. No mistrial motion. Does anyone know what his appeal was based on? Was it based on ineffective assistance of counsel or on some other argument?
Nicole, can you find 294 to show Mr. Firehelm? And I'll move on for a moment and come back while you're doing that. I don't think I warned her I was going to do that. Mr. Firehelm, during your 2023 deposition, do you remember being asked about a Greeley EMT who had filed a report about her response to the 911 call for Amy's injuries?
Yeah, I kind of recall something about that, yes.
Did you do any investigation or take any steps to determine whether the first responders' actions and or CPR could have caused some of Amy Mullis's injuries?
I vaguely recall whether it was the ER doctor at the hospital or possibly during the medical examiners. But I'm not sure of that. I'm sorry.
Did you talk to any of the Greeley EMS first responders before trial?
No.
Do you recall the Mullis family telling you that Greeley EMS was there and that you could contact them.
I don't recall them telling us that. It was pretty obvious from the reports. They might have.
But did you ever do any follow-up to get the Greeley EMS reports before trial?
Not unless they were in the general discovery.
Did you ever learn that law enforcement was suspicious about how Amy sustained her injuries at the hospital on November 10th?
I honestly can't say when the suspicion began.
Do you recall doing any investigation or interviews with people about that?
Again, and I might be wrong about this, about whether or not that hospital doctor talking to the law enforcement, that it may have started then, the actual
But
day.
did you take any steps to learn about potential conflicts of interest or bias in the investigation?
No.
And were you aware that Amy Mullis had worked at the same hospital where she was taken when she was injured?
Yes, I think we did know that.
And were you aware that some of the witnesses the state called to elicit those hearsay statements worked at that hospital as well?
I think we were aware of that, yes.
Are you ready, Nicole? Okay. What number was it? 294. The record could reflect that we're showing the witness exhibit 294. And if you could take a look at the first page and tell me what it is, and then we are happy to scroll through it for you.
It's still dark.
Still loading. It knows that it's 4 o'clock, I think.
Yeah, I'm not showing that it's connected. I'm not sure if you need to try again.
Can you identify the document for me, Mr. Farrell?
And he still doesn't have it yet.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Sure. Thank you.
On Mr. Baki's computer?
Yes.
All right, let's try that one.
Do you see a transcript of 911 call?
Yes.
What date?
The date of the call?
Yes.
November 10th, 2018.
And does it identify who made the call?
911 call by Todd Mullis.
And if we can start scrolling. Page 15 of the PDF. Could you review that for me, Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
I want to direct you to line 5. Can you read that for me?
Deputy Luke, here, comma, Todd, let me.
Do you know who Deputy Luke is?
No, not specifically.
If I told you that was Delaware County Sheriff Deputy Luke Thompson, who testified at trial, would you disagree?
No.
Objection, we're reading from evidence that this we're reading from a transcript, not an evidence that the state would object to its admission and consideration of in the first place.
If I could ask 2 more questions and then I'll move to admit it, Your Honor.
Well, again, if there's an objection to it, we should probably admit it before we get too far in the weeds. I mean, do you think you can get it in through this witness?
I have just a moment. Your Honor, it's a certified transcript by a court reporter. I'm not sure what other foundation the state would like to have. Page 17, I think, is where Kimberly Blink does her certificate.
I mean, counsel, any response in that respect?
While we agree that this is a certified transcript of a 911 call that, according to that same certification, is done merely to the best of the court reporter's ability, based upon heavy breathing and inaudibility, this is not a transcript from a court proceeding. It constitutes hearsay. This witness hasn't seen it before, and while it's certified, that may go to its authenticity and to its identification, but it certainly doesn't go to its admissibility outright. So the state objects on lack of foundation, objects also on hearsay as it falls under the rule and doesn't meet any criteria or exception. And 403(2)(b as prejudicial more than probative, given that the Court of Appeals have already addressed this in a footnote finding that the jury could listen for themselves and believe or disbelieve the arguments of the prosecutor as presented at trial.
State objections are so spicy.
Well, I think that certainly Ms. Nichols-Cook, you can ask your questions about the timing and the presence of the deputy in relation to when these statements were made or not made without the use of the transcript. We can address the possibility of this coming in maybe at a later time. I don't think this is the right witness necessarily to do it if it is going to come in, but why don't you proceed? We do need to end at 4:30 today, and I suspect we're not in a position to do that. So go ahead.
19 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Fireholm, if you could just read through page 15 and 16 for me.
If you could just tell me when to scroll.
Page or line?
Page 15 and page 16.
Guys, Trial TV Live covered this trial.
It's kind of covered up, but I think this is 15.
I think it would be a great place to go watch this. We'll put a link up to it.
Line 2. Oh, excuse me.
You're just scrolling slowly on page.
Sorry, just tell me when you want me to scroll since I'm helping with the technological issues.
Could you let me see the top?
Oh, sure.
Okay. That's good.
The medicine's
Line
worn
2
off.
starts out, she's cold.
And right now, you're just reading to yourself, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Scroll, please.
Have you been able to review page 15 and 16?
Yes.
Okay. In your review of this transcript of the 911 call, do you see the 2 statements the prosecutor asked Mr. Mullis about on his cross-examination?
I do not see those words.
Thank you. We can take it down.
Trial TV Live has
Mr. Firehelm
has 3 videos on this trial. I think it was a 4-day trial.
Are you aware that the state misrepresented the source of the Google searches at the criminal trial?
Objection to the categorization of the state's statement and also under Rule 5403B. Also vague.
Sustained. Mr. Firehelm, I'll ask a different question. Are you aware that evidence exists that would have rebutted the evidence presented at trial that Todd Mullis alone made the Google searches that the state presented?
I'm not aware of any technical research or document.
Are you aware of digital forensic experts that could examine the iPad and determine information that could potentially contradict the evidence presented at trial?
That's pretty broad. Yeah, I assume an expert could examine it and give an opinion to that. Whether or not it would confirm it or not, I don't know.
If there was evidence that contradicted the state's presentation about the electronic evidence, would you have used that at trial?
If there was evidence?
Yes.
Yes.
If you were aware of evidence that contradicted the state medical examiner's determination that the manner of death was homicide, would you have presented that at trial?
Yes.
Okay, I think I have one last exhibit to show you, which will be 245. Oh yeah, sorry, Todd. 245.
I think they're monetized. I think they got monetized, Sinbad, just a couple days ago. They got everything squared away. That's the last I heard, anyway.
Mr. Firehelm, do you recognize the document on your screen?
No.
If we can scroll a little bit and let me know if you do recognize the handwriting or the content.
I don't know.
Okay. We can take that one down. Do you recall taking any steps to investigate Amy Mullis's medical condition at the time that she was injured on November 10th?
We were aware that she had had a medical procedure a few days prior.
Did you obtain medical records about Ms. Mullis's procedure or medications that she was on?
If it was in the discovery, yes. I don't recall specifically.
Did you do any investigation into whether Ms. Mullis would have been dizzy on November 10th due to her medications?
No research, no, other than what Todd and Tristan said.
And did you issue any subpoenas to get medical records?
I don't believe so.
Did you have any medical records that you did receive in discovery reviewed by an expert?
No.
Do you recall a letter from Mr. Mullis asking you to, or stating that he wanted to get a 3D demonstration of the injury to show that it was a fall?
No, I don't recall that specifically, no.
If we can pull up 233. And we're going to go to page 11. 233. 233. Is it in front of you, Mr. Fireholm?
Yes.
Can you read page 11 and 12? Do you see any drawings or diagrams in this letter?
It's not very clear, but I can tell that there's something there.
And I'll look at page.
That one, yes.
We can scroll to page 13.
This guy trying to buy my house. I gave him a hard time.
Evidence, it's hearsay. It hasn't been adequately authenticated. I do believe 213 was admitted into evidence, and 233 was admitted in full at this time. I apologize. I withdraw my objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mr. Fireman, have you had a chance to look at page 13?
Yes. Excuse me.
And we can scroll to 14 as well. Do you see additional drawings regarding Amy's injuries in this letter from Mr. Mullis?
I do.
Did you take any steps to investigate the information that Mr. Mullis provided to you?
I don't know what the date of this is.
Getting news of a manhunt right now in
taking any
Virginia.
steps at any time
Just heads up.
to
Charlottesville
investigate
area.
the
No,
information in this letter?
no forensic experts or witnesses or anything, no.
Okay. Your Honor, I think this is a good place for me to stop. Unfortunately, I think I still have a few more questions for Mr. Fireholm. I don't know if the state would be agreeable to, I think we have potentially an expert in the morning, and Mr. Fireholm might not be able to get back up here until tomorrow afternoon.
Is he allowed to go by Zoom?
And maybe we can have some off-the-record discussion about scheduling briefly. Okay. We'll do that before everybody takes off, but we'll plan on recessing until 9 o'clock in the morning. I have been informed by the clerk of court that they're bringing a crane in tomorrow to move something. So whatever the parking situation was this morning, it's going to be even worse tomorrow.
A crane to move the train.
People want to know that. They may need a couple extra minutes to get here. See you tomorrow at 9. Have a nice night.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And with that great news, thank you, Judge. Listening in on scanner traffic right now. This is in the Charlottesville, Albemarle, UVA police.
Your Honor, would you like to do scheduling?
Yeah, they're doing scheduling right now. Just listening and see if we can hear anything that's happening.
233 to 85 and 40. Careful. 127 to 30. Yeah.
I'm just trying to get news. There's a manhunt going on. I don't know what it's for.
Yeah. Hold the hand.
5472.
Y'all go to com too. Just text me where you want me to be. I'll bring 79 with me. Switch.
Can you come back up this way?
See, Dave, Daily Weather 5 seconds ago put out this tweet saying, breaking UVA emergency alert, active attacker with a knife reported moving in the area of Emmett Street. Shelter in place, run, hide, fight. The subject was wearing a red sweatshirt but has ditched it. The attacker has stabbed a person in the chest. Stay tuned for updates. This is near UVA. Near UVA is where this is happening. A man armed with a knife running around University of Virginia. Active manhunt going on right now.
To try to relay that to the monitoring station, see if we can get an updated description. 42.
Let me get some visuals
Last
for you so we can
information
start.
we got was from passersby. I believe they saw on Mullis Mountain, which is right behind the ECC up the mountain.
And listen, sure, UVA or any other officers not touching that article so we can get a good track, please.
Okay, he's ditched his sweater.
I do have a request from the county sergeant. They're requesting a picture of the suspect if one is available. I do have an updated sighting, possibly, of the suspect. The subject fitting the description on Lewis Mountain Parkway near the pump house. It has a green roof. They advise it's a quarter mile onto the road. It's coming from Reed Lane. 10-4.
You go ahead and dispatch Sector 7 and Sector 8 that way as well. And 225 will be in that way.
Okay, give me a second here. Let me bring over some flight radar
CD7.
so we can see what the cops are doing in the air around that.
Understood. And I'm not sure if it's made its way to you yet, but we believe he may have just a sweatshirt found in a trash can near a building off of Whitehead. I think he would be now wearing a white T-shirt.
Just advise you, I've got 2 Homeland Security officers who've also responded to this area. Are checking.
ACC B54.
We're looking in Virginia, in Charlottesville.
I believe that he's going to have a canine en route to get a scent off of that sweater. They're just requesting that no one touches it. 10-4, we only open the lid.
CP1 to that unit. If you're in contact with them, can you have them report their Unified Command Center first, at least to check in so we know who they are and what they're doing?
Right up here in Charlottesville. Here's the University of
Yes,
Virginia.
sir. I just got to alumni here myself. I'm standing next to the officer outside the scene. I'll 100
There, sorry.
16 to CP7. Confirm the subject is out of a sweatshirt. I just gave a description and contacted CAT for their drivers to be aware if they pick up anyone. Is he no longer in the sweatshirt?
We confirmed UPD found this shirt behind Halsey Hall in the trash can. ACC to AP53.
Getting a crash course in the map up in that area.
I'll be en route to 2300 Ivy Road, backing AP40, AP233, just in case of suspect. Returns to the county.
Trouble.
30 base.
You guys,
30.
we just abruptly started following a manhunt in Virginia where there's a suspect who's
the address before that sweatshirt was found, so
stabbed somebody and is on the loose.
40 AC.
113 ACC, you can disregard. I've found that vehicle. Looks like the city had a pursuit with him about a week ago.
Sorry, I'll share my location with you. Give me 1 second.
30, it's 148 Amphitheater Way, Halsey. Currently, I'm coming up Greenbrier. And to confirm, are you out with the vehicle? Negative. I just wanted to let you know that I've been able to pull it. You can disregard. 22.
Address of the incident is going to be 1908 Lewis Mountain Road.
10-4.
Do you have address for the command center?
9-8, repeat.
I've got a manhunt in Virginia we're following right now. We're listening live to the police in the UVA
Clark
region
Hall, 291 McCormick Road.
in Charlottesville, Virginia.
AP 46, priority 2 disabled.
22 to 112. Yes, sir. 24 EC, you're going to assign all the calls for 46 to me. And we're sorry, you in
position to respond to 1908 Lewis Mountain Road, please.
10-4. I can head that way. I'm a little ways on foot. I'll head that way.
I'm just going to check and see if they've got anything in the air yet as far as helicopters for sighting this.
ECC AP-24, party to disabled vehicle.
Command units in the field. We've got to report the subject may have been last seen in the area of Maury Avenue, now wearing a white T-shirt. UP3 is going to be setting up a text group and passing images all of the that we have out to everybody.
24.
It's going to be a disabled vehicle on Seminole Trail at Woodbrook Drive. It's going to be a gray Dodge pickup currently in the road. It's going to be southbound in the intersection. AC to all units on the Emmett Street call. University would like everyone to go ahead and switch to the RESP 15, TS Response 15 call group for this incident.
We might lose all of our audio.
Do you want me to hold this perimeter, or do you want me to ride down Maury and see if I can locate the suspect?
24 direct. CB10 AC.
20 CC. What's wrong with 4 number?
CB10.
Can you tell me if 1908 Lewis Mountain Road is a city address or is this going to be a UPD? It's Wesley at UVA United Methodist Church.
CB20. Can you get my report number, please?
Yeah, at this point, it sounds like the last time we had one video was about 1653. So therefore, the likelihood of him leaving and going away from grounds is fairly high. You could just go mobile and keep patrol in that area.
1653.
Heading that way. It'll be coordinated by UP205.
It's now 1730, so about 40 minutes ago was the last sighting.
Report number is 12626. I repeat, 12626. ECC UP6.
Go ahead. 10-4, I think somebody else, that sort of seems to be securing it.
10-4. We're ready to move to PS Response 15 with City.
Scottsville 40 UCC. We're out at the hospital. I'll enter the mileage in a minute.
10-4.
I understood. If you can make the tone, make the announcement, and we still need the city supervisor up here at Clark Hall.
10-4. East City units on Emmett Street call. Got another couple of conflicting sightings. One said the area of GCAC on Monticello looked stressed and was going westbound. Then another said ECCI units on the stabbing call, Emmett Street.
16 to 22. I'm going to head towards Maury. I'm leaving PD now.
Got to find my.
33 to see does the city and UVA have a command post set up?
Got to log into the account that doesn't have ads.
Let me have the most recent physical description, please.
AP-233. It's going to be at Clark Hall, and they're going to be on PS Response 15.
No ads.
We believe 40s, late 30s, early 40s, white male, UVA blue sweatpants, and a white T-shirt.
That's
now
our
that
description.
He has taken the hoodie off.
30s to 40s, white male.
Clark Hall is off, damn it. CB10 unit. I have a film. I'll send it out. Sworn email.
UVA sweatpants.
McCormick, 291 McCormick Road.
White T-shirt.
Shove me around over there.
Are you able to go over to the Unified Command Post? Or they're requesting a sergeant. I just want to make sure somebody is headed over there. And units will be switching to the tall group. 13 ECC, I'm en route to that location.
Yeah. 6 units in the field. We now have an image of him at 1707 walking down Alderman Road across Stadium onto Maury, heading down towards JPA. So if we can get some units down towards like Fontaine and Mimosa, GPA by Springs, JPA by Emmett Street South, and just so we can get a perimeter set up and hold it there.
7 CPD units. What units do I have free?
Last unit re-identify.
CP7, I'm trying to identify a unit available so that I can assign them to that perimeter.
Yeah, right now we have a couple of our units. Let me go to the CU section. We'll get badge numbers. Pleasance just showed up here at our Unified Command.
20, you say? 80-20. 7-3, I'm turning around to JPA off of Stadium. I can pull it wherever you need me. CB7, the last unit, restate.
There was a shelter in place in this area 2 days ago
Mark
for a different
time
incident.
at 16:52.
Not sure if it's connected.
And you can clear the 23 Charlie 1, please. 10-4. UP-73. I just turned on JPA from Stadium. I can post wherever you want. Alright, 10-4. I'm at Maywood right now, just so you know.
What's JPA? Something Avenue, right?
7 base. Copy. Information for suspect.
Jefferson Palm Avenue.
Right for me, please.
6-7. East of to CB13. 13.
Should come back to an Edward Colin Lee.
This is the area we're looking at right here, right around the stadium.
Since
in Jefferson
this
Palm Avenue.
incident's pretty much going over to that PS response channel, can we release air on COM 1?
10-4, just make one more announcement that you're, for what unit, whichever channel everybody switch to, please.
When they release
10-4 will do.
When they release the air, it's going to bring in a whole bunch more traffic from police.
Common selling. Date of birth is 02/26/1981. DL Tango 61237055.
10-4, I'll catch him.
CP7 and UP-73. If you can just go a little further down JPA to Fontaine and start hanging out in that area, see if you can see the minute that far.
7-3 direct. On Stripling Ave apartment address. So it sounds like potential correct direction travel.
ECC releasing traffic to become 1, release traffic to become 1. All units involved in the 100 Emmett Street, Lewis Mountain Road stabbing call, switch your traffic to PS response 15. That's PS response 15, and we're monitoring it at 1732.
16-836.
16.
I'm going to check first, but I'm going to tell you, run anything else through me as far as other callers in the city. Have I got anyone available?
What I've got on CAD, right now, CP133 and CP76 are only ones that are showing available.
127 command. I just called somebody who lives on they advise he's actually outside currently in front of 247 Stripling Avenue. 247 Stripling Avenue. 19 DCC.
109.
Okay, we'll run it with that. No priority 3s at this time. And I can tell you.
Okay, so possible sighting here.
966-3. 10-4. 6-7 is direct. Let me get 3 units to identify, then we'll get the folks together and then make contact.
Yeah.
CP140, base. You can clear my call of 35 Alpha-6. I'll be available as well.
6-7-30, I can make y'all.
10-4. ECC is direct.
What?
See the CP133.
233.
At this time, I told her to record it so we can have evidence that he's going and stuff.
Attention all buses. Anyone with students on board, please identify, other than bus 12.
That's the bus audio.
140 base. I believe he was going with 22 to the command center for the incident. I don't think he's available.
10-4.
CB7 to Defendant, sir. Alright, I know you're en route. It sounds like 6-7's coming with you. What was the other unit going?
ECC to CP143. Can you shoot it real quick at that Main Street call where the two males got off the bus? It's been holding for a long time, so they're probably not in the area any longer.
27-0.
That worked.
Okay, looks like we got him.
Give me one.
Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can bring you this audio.
UP55 UCC, send traffic.
Come on. ECC unit for Abbey Road. I believe city's up with suspect on Sterling.
24 UCC in one location.
Come on.
Scott 40 UCC custody time.
ECC to CB16.
Go ahead.
Officer initiated at 1701-1701. Since you're on this channel, just wanted to make you aware they have him detained.
There it is.
1701-1701.
They have him detained.
How many units are out with the subject? I'm at RCA with that 4-4 anyway.
30-16.
Go ahead.
They recommended everyone still stay in the shelter. They say they have him detained. Stay in place for now. They're waiting for confirmation that they have the right guy in custody. This is a stabbing that took place next to UVU in the area on the map we're looking at right here.
3-4.
You can clear this 958 SF.
10-4.
Just going to play back some of the audio we just got from, I think it's on 7. Why do I not have audio on 7? Where's it coming in? Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can play this for you.
We recommend everybody to stay in shelter. You can't force it, but if they want to go, that's
09, all security. Stay in place for now. Remain confirmation.
20 is empty.
Thank you, 20. Have a good evening.
125 ECC.
City 125.
Subject left the lobby, 934-5, 125 ECC.
City 125.
Engine 83 available.
Showing there in quarters.
934-5. Can you dispatch into our location, please?
ECC 125.
Go ahead.
All right, there was another subject in the lobby due to report found. Actually, disregard. They were just dropped there. But if you're there, services has some credit cards that needs to be entered for being. Officer initiated at 1701-1701. Since you're on this channel, just wanted to make you aware they have him detained.
There we go. That's the one we wanted to play right there for you. Looks like he's caught now.
31439. Have we got any confirmation yet?
Waiting for the final confirmation.
Negative UP213. Let's go check on it. Medic 12 to engine 83.
So this particular area is covered by Open Megahertz, which is the app I love to use for police scanners for large events like this. Open megahertz allows you to listen to all the traffic that's going on in an area and pick out whatever you want. So if you just want to hear dispatch, you can hear that. If you just want to hear the tactical channels, you can hear that. If you just want to hear the buses, you can hear that. If you just want to hear, air support, you can hear that. You can sort it and filter. All the channels speak on the same frequencies, but they have little talk codes, so they only hear the ones they want to hear.
We get confirmation.
You can upgrade response to our location, please.
That's TAC.
Okay.
Tactical's asking for an upgraded response.
Nothing major.
East, direct, engine 83 heading to Regent 1744.
Nothing major.
Okay, 10-4, I think we'll get a confirmation or sure I can probably get the people cleared up.
309-304.
10-4.
Quit. Can we list it all now? 309, I think we can come off access control now. We need to check with the sergeant and PD to make sure they have legit before we clear everything up. We can go off access in the ED if you got truck to charge nurse.
University Transit.
They sent out the emergency. I just went for the alert.
Alright, some background noise there, but you guys are clear?
Sorry about that, I'll be in route before leaving.
There it is. There's the official clear.
You can see it in 97.
Oh, I'll go let them know then. 97.
32, this is 55-3. You're both responding for alarm at Commonwealth Dentist Street.
Unit 7 to all routes. Shelter in place has the park. Deploy you to proper locations. Again, the shelter in place has been lifted. Stay in place at the park. I will be there shortly to
There we go. All right.
309.
Shelter in place has been lifted.
I think we can come off access control now.
So security, buses, dispatch, everything is all taken care of. That was quick. That was fun. It reminds us of the Cavalcante days. All right. We just need to hear 1015 subject in custody, right? It's confirmed. They've just released the buses. Dispatch just said you can clear. What's going on? There was a manhunt really quickly up at UVA, University of
I
Virginia.
called that number from my hit and run 3 times. Just says the number is no longer in service or something. I guess you can clear to 959.6 for now.
That's just regular police traffic.
3132, all security access control has been lifted from EED. Access control has been lifted.
Okay, access control lifted. That means all the buildings are back open on campus, so people can go in and out from buildings again.
You can show me clear and back and route to the PD.
Hey, Bakers, Broken Baker. We finished court for the day.
Yeah, we can clear up. Hey, make sure you call the access control and clear it up.
It's already been cleared. This guy doesn't know. That's security who's just talking, campus security.
Hey, this is CFP30. Did you have traffic?
There was a quick manhunt there that we were listening to. So I'm going to turn that down for now. We finished court for the day, had a quick manhunt. We do have another day of trial tomorrow in the Todd Mullis civil suit where he's suing the state for a new trial. He's already lost his appeal. He was already convicted. He is currently in custody serving a life sentence. He is appealing on the grounds that he had ineffective assistance of counsel. And it looks pretty bad. I'm not sure if it meets the threshold. It has to be pretty bad in order to get a win in this category. And a win for him would be a retrial, where his new attorneys would be able to present the evidence that it may have been an accident. Instead, his old attorney in the old trial, when he got up and took the stand, he said, "I thought it was I think it's an accident." His attorney got up and said, "Nope, it was murder." It's really bad when your attorney says it's murder and you say it was an accident. But anyway, good times all around to be had by all. Tonight we have the podcast at 8 p.m. It's going to be fun. I promise to retell the story from this morning. If you missed it, it involves a highly embarrassing moment for me. A call to the police, a report to the police. There's Filed a report. There's the police business card with a report number. I'm not going to give you that part, but someone break into my garage. A little bit of stinky. A wonderful neighbor. And my garbage can. I don't know how else I can tease that. There's no good way to tease this story. It's terrible. It's a terrible story. It happened this morning. So we'll tell the story again. For those that missed us on the podcast tonight, we have a sort of different crew that follows us on the evenings. So we'll do that and have everything else as well. Anything good to taste? I have a box of pickle flavored stuff. I've got a dehydrated pickle or something like that. I don't know. It's like astronaut food, but it's a pickle. I haven't even opened it. I haven't looked at it. I do have a few pickle flavored Slim Jims, left that I plan on eating all of them tonight. I have some pickle flavored cotton candy, which I don't plan on eating. I have some dill flavored seasoning, which is just wonderful. It's delicious. I like that. I'm going to add that to the kitchen. And I have some pickle candies. I have no idea what they are. And maybe a few other things. So we do have a few things to taste. All of them are pickle flavored. So, yes, thank you for clicking the like button. I appreciate that. If we can get over 1,000 on every stream, it's one way to tell YouTube that, yes, in fact, people do like the channel. And that's always good. What was that dispatch? Open source? Super Teeth. I was using Open Megahertz. Oh, so Open MHZ. And it's a cool little app we actually found during the Cavalcante Manhunt. The guy who makes it, I ended up reaching out to him and talking to him a little bit and giving him a little support because he just designed it himself. It's software that records what's called trunked radio systems. A trunked radio system is where, say, like the city of, Charlottesville, Virginia, might pay for a handful of frequencies. They buy airspace, basically, to talk, frequencies that people can talk on. But they don't need to use all of them all the time. And everybody doesn't want to hear everyone else. The guys running the park don't want to hear the police, and the fire department doesn't want to hear the park or police. And so, but they all can use the same frequencies if they have a trunked system. So they have trunk codes where each group has their own identifier and uses little tones that we can't hear. And you can talk to just your own group, and it will use one of the many frequencies that you've bought, and whatever is available, it will just jump to that one, and everyone can talk at the same time without hearing each other. This system records all of them, so you hear every single transmission, and you can go back and you can replay them, you can save them, you can play them over and over, you can skip some, you can say, I don't want to hear the park service, I don't want to hear the buses, and I don't want to hear security, but I do want to hear police and fire and medic. So it's just a really, really cool system. And it just happens to be available for the area where there's the manhunt that just happened here this afternoon. All right. Anything else to go over? I don't have any yummy flavored stuff as far as Cheetos, dill flavored Cheetos yet. I don't have those yet. So I'll have to look for those. Available at Walmart. Only at the murder Walmart. Is it worth it? Should I go to the murder Walmart and get the Cheetos Flamin' Hot Dill? Should I get those tonight? Should I strap on my piece and go take my life in my hand? Yes, bob and weave. Don't think Ari likes tech. No. I hate this stuff. It's a fad. It's going to go away. We're going to be back to pen and paper here soon. I've confirmed that Weather Watch is awake, so don't be late. His first attorney was paid. And he hated him. Fun times will be had by all tonight. Please do join us for the Not Relevant podcast on this channel right here at 8 o'clock. Click the subscribe button, ring the bell. You'll be notified when it goes live. And then join us. It's going to be just like this, only all fun, all the time. Tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe till we go live again tonight at 8 p.m. with the Not Relevant podcast. We'll see you guys then.
because he's the guy.